I think we're at a point now, from talking amongst colleagues and friends and people that I know, that for many people, if you produce a very good auto-flowering plants and cure it correctly, a lot of people won't notice a difference if you didn't tell them this is auto and this is not auto. We're almost at that stage now where it's fairly, parity has almost been reached. There's still some snobbery out there, and understandably, but then I don't think that people who have the snobbery understand what auto is all about and why it's important to so many people. Everyone has their own thing, and everyone wants to do things in the way they like to do them. But autos have enabled so many new people to get into growing, and in an easy way, and from medical users all the way through to recreational users. It's opened up a door. People who can't afford the equipment, people who can't afford or don't have the space, people who just want to grow a couple of CBD variety type strains and just don't want to have the bother of all these things, or it's early in the year, or my weather gets terrible. All these things stop being an issue with autos, and it's a really magical thing. I know a lot of people in certain sort of European type climates who are very excited about the late spring period with autos, because in a lot of countries, with your licenses and your 5 plant allotments and stuff, that's great, but if you don't use early flowering strains, you run into problems later in the year when the weather changes and the seasons close in. Most of your classic beautiful strains won't survive. They don't like it. Whereas with autos, you just plant a month or two earlier of the strain you wanted to have. Bada boom, you've got it in the middle of summer with perfect sunlight every day. And I'm seeing some amazing results. And I think we're going to, like I said, we'll flip through some photographs and show some photographs from you guys and some other people. People are shocked when they see these plants. They're like, in the early days, again, when at the very earliest low ride, and we're talking to Sasha later on from the joint doctor, who's a really important person in the industry. But the very earliest low riders, they never pretended to be any huge plants. They would use kind of 12-inch, 14-inch plants, single cola, and then to suddenly see these huge plants. But they're autos is for me is massively amazing. And I think I said in the last podcast I was a little bit skeptical many years ago with the feminized, and it took a while for me to get my head around changing the industry. And I think for a lot of people who know about autos, that's a similar thing. People are slightly watching as things develop. But I think we're there, and I think people are starting to realise that now. And friends of mine who've experimented this year and put in things and not expected too much, or last year, have really been shocked at the results that they have had indoors and outdoors. So, do you, from a FastBuds perspective, do you find there's much feedback in terms of indoors and outdoors? Do you find that there's a percentage of people, or how do you find that works with your customers?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. I think obviously not everyone has the accessibility to grow indoors. So autos are extremely popular outdoors, or perhaps, people that have shorter summers will definitely go more for the auto flowering variety, because, they don't have, like, as you mentioned, they don't have all summer to wait for 4 to 6 month plant. So then that's where auto flowers come in and are very they're so convenient for this type of climate. And in fact, people like in Southern Europe, for example, or the Southern Europe climate, they can have 1, 2, 3 harvests in the summer instead of just one, which I think is incredible. And then, of course, indoors, there's a lot of people that do the perpetual harvest. Since you don't have to change light cycles, you can just put one in, take one out, put one in, take one out. You don't have to worry about, my photos are in, they're in the flowering stage, so I can't start another one until that's done. They have to have their separate tents. Whereas autos, you just have one tent and you can have a perpetual harvest for as long as you want, really, as long as you.
I saw it in the days past, and the colleagues of mine talking about the mother rooms. And what they would do, the mother rooms are just mother rooms. They would keep mothers and vegetating plants and stuff, and they would start to pop autos in the mother room.
Exactly.
And suddenly the autos were doing really well, and they were like, hang on, I've got these 2 or 3 plants on the side of the mother room that are doing better than almost of my main room. And that's when they start to take it more seriously. And it is exactly that. If you have a spare tent somewhere, if you are indoors, or you live somewhere where the light's very, very short days, or the winter, of course, your autos work and you can pop them in. And if you do happen to be lucky enough to be having wonderful summers and stuff, you get perpetual harvests. I talked about this with people a while ago, about this idea of popping in plants every week, early in the spring, late mid-spring, and then suddenly, as it starts to fill out, you're literally cropping every week. And then if you're lucky enough to have different varieties, or allow you with people like yourselves and other companies that have so many different strains, where you can put in different genetics every single week, and then come, midsummer, you can be pulling out genetics all the way through till when you decide the weather's closing in.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
No, actually, just to touch on something you said, like people that are a little bit skeptical towards autos that are more traditional photoperiod growers, don't knock them till you try them, I say. And I always give that advice, like, like as you said, if you have your mother tent or your veg tent, whatever, throw an auto in, see how it goes. Like they do really well with the 18-6 light cycle. So if you have one of those already going, why not try an auto for the 2 months that you're vegging? It'll be done by the time that you've vegged your photoperiod plant.